So I'm joined today by Russell. Thank you for joining me. How are you doing?
I'm good, Emma. Thank you very much. How are you?
Very well. Joining me all the way from the UK, my homeland.
Yes, I know. We know we're looking after it for you, essentially.
Good.
And God, don't know when it's going to go
Good.
out, but we've just done that traditional thing off there of like, so the UK's having a heat wave, and then obviously anybody
Yes.
that's in Australia is going, just stop. You don't even know what you're talking about. So yes. Anyway, we think we're having a heat wave.
You are. I'm on Team UK here. You are having a heat wave.
Yeah,
And
it
it
is. It's a
never
bit.
feels the same.
No, it's a bit hotter than it normally is. So there we go.
Yeah, exactly. You're melting. Tell me a bit about your career journey, Russell. What brought you to the point that you're at now? Take me back. Tell me the story.
Yeah, thank you very much. Appreciate that. Ever since I can remember, I've always been interested in human behaviour and what makes people tick, and why on earth do we do the things that we do, and why don't we do the
Mm.
things that we're supposed to do.
Yes.
Essentially, that's always intrigued me. And when I was at careers conversations, when you're at school, 14ish, people used to say to me, "Oh, Russell, you're good with people. You should do sales or personnel." And at the time, both those made me feel a bit ick, essentially.
Yeah.
However,
Yeah.
there's some irony in that because they weren't wrong. And we'll come back to that in a minute, essentially. And then a real significant moment was I was traveling around the world for a year with my lovely girlfriend at the time, now my wife. And as you do, stopped off in Hong Kong, and I was teaching local Hong Kong Chinese off the street. And for me, there was some magic that was happening in the room. Essentially, didn't know what it was, but I'm thinking there's something gorgeous happening there. I'm loving this. Don't know what this is, but I think I want to do this for a living. Come back to the UK, and had worked out that actually the magic was people learning, people having light
Mm,
bulb moments, realization moments.
mm.
It sort of gives a zap to my heart when people go from
Yeah.
confused face to aha moment. And at the time, I went to recruitment agencies, and all I could equate it to was a business trainer job title. So, go to recruitment agencies and go, I think I want to be a business trainer. And they said, what are you qualified in? What do you know? Go, nothing. Out, essentially. I
Yeah.
just want to do it. So I
Good
took a
Yorkshire
sa
word. Good
Yes,
Yorkshire
absolutely.
word for our Australian listeners. Nout.
Indeed, indeed. Took a sales job, but then went to night school and did a certificate in training practice, and then got a training manager's job role. So, pretty much 20 plus year career in learning and development, leadership development,
Mm.
organizational development. And in that, coupled with 6 redundancies, essentially,
Six. Wow.
6. And it was the 6th where the timing felt right for me to set up my own business, essentially. I could have done it maybe a bit earlier, but it just felt right. Head, heart, and gut was in alignment. And my last permanent role was at the Co-op Group in Manchester, which formed essentially the name and the business of the Resilience Coach. So Co-op Group,
Yeah.
really loved the role, part of a large team of people supporting the top 300 leaders across the group. And not long after I joined, the world fell on everybody's heads with massive, massive change, the backstory to it, but an enormous financial black hole in the finances. And all of my clients, the internal leaders come to with their head in their hands going, what do we do? And at the time, I had been looking at this word resilience, and I had been looking at this an acronym of VUCA, which I know we'll talk about at some point. And so when I left the co-op, when I knew that our areas can be restructured and another redundancy, I went, do you know what? It's time to set up by myself. And when I did the navel gazing around, what's my USP? Do you know
Mm,
what? It's like I am the resilience coach. That is what I have been
mm.
doing, and that was the name. So the whole career has always been about how do I support organizations, teams to strike a much better balance around people, systems, process. So I'm
Nice.
absolutely in the people space.
Mm.
And I understand the validity of systems and process, but still now I still see organizations forgetting and not really understanding what that people element of the Venn diagram is. There's still a whole lot more you can do, and that's what I mean. The resiliency space is for me, resilient humans equals resilient organizations. and I'll often put that up on a
Nice.
flip chart and just sort of go, right, discuss.
Yeah. And how do we do that? Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So that's
Six.
it. Yeah, that's the answer to today to that question.
Awesome. 6 redundancies will teach you a few things about yourself, I'm sure.
Yeah, they do. They do.
That's tough. Yeah.
Yeah. There was 2 that were real surprises. Just being called into the room that you normally get called into to just get an update on something, or something being shared. And yes, 2 of those times it's like, right, the business has just closed, go home. You're just like, what? Hang on a minute.
Wow.
Wait.
Yeah.
You got in front, ask questions, and they go, there's no questions to ask. We're done. It's finished. Home.
Wow.
You're just like, blimey. And then others, you knew the writing was on the cards. And then, yeah, it's that number of times having to sort of home to, the lovely missus and go, so, it's happened again.
Yeah. Guess what happened today?
Yeah. And, it does. It teaches you all about yourself, what makes you tick, how one faces into it in that particular moment in time. And whilst it is challenging, and yes, it was scary, I think each time, I don't know, I'm either super stubborn, or each time it just consolidated for me. It was another opportunity to find a place where I could go somewhere where an organisation wanted to do something genuine about the people in the people, systems and process bit.
And I'd imagine for what you do now, like working so closely with people, organisations and individuals directly, I'd imagine there's a lot of shared experience there that you're kind of able to bring to bear on those conversations, because there's quite a lot of uncertainty involved in 6 redundancies. So
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why I really like the VUCA piece, if it's all right to bring it in.
Please.
Now, because so quite often, as once again in modular sessions or talking to individual clients or doing speeches, I'll walk into a room full of people and go, right, we all know change is constant, and the room nods. People are maybe watching, listening now, will just nod, and they go, right, let's talk about this in a slightly better way. So this VUCA framework, for me, is just a really great way of unpicking much better just those simple words of change is constant. So it is always going to be crazy somewhere in the world, actually, how much of it is impacting you in your job role or your organization, or your perception that's impacting you when it isn't. But then also thinking about, actually, do you know what? It's not impacting me yet. However, I need to keep an eye on it because it might, essentially. And so underpinning, so VUCA, like buzzwords. So I'll throw 8 buzzwords out there now, Emma. They're just buzzwords. They're meaningless. So VUCA is, the world we live in is volatile, uncertain, complex and ambiguous. But to face into it, you need VUCA prime. The counterbalance is vision, understanding, clarity and agility. And when you look behind the VUCA prime, there are some leadership capabilities and some peak performance skills that humans and leaders and teams can think about developing to face into a VUCA world. And for me, underpinning that first is build and enable your resilience first to be able to face into the VUCA world, essentially. So my specialism from my backstory is how to lead yourself and others really well in a full-on crazy world.
It is in itself quite a strange word, so I think it just kind of sticks, because you think it's a strange situation we feel like we're all in, and it's a strange word. I was doing a bit of research on it, and I saw that it originated in the US Army, how it then sort of found its way into, I guess, that sort of management consulting training lexicon. Do you know how that happened?
So as I understand it, so yeah, absolutely, it was so the ex-head of the armed forces, Afghanistan and Iraq, and an occupational psychologist called Dr. Louis Soka. So his surname is CSOKA. I can't remember how they came together, but they came together and sort of said, oh, I think there's validity taking this into the business world. And, how the military describe it is, what, our office is a battlefield, And actually, you know what? It's volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous, you know? So they trained at their military academies the peak performance skills, the leadership capabilities, things like situational awareness, mental agility, learned instinct, commander's calm, you know, all of these phraseologies for actually, and situational awareness and foresight. So it's a case of, imagine that you are military lead on the battlefield. It's like, I've got this situation awareness that there's some craziness that's happening over there. Something's happening behind me that I just need to be aware of. Over there's something's just bubbling away. However, I know from learned instinct that actually over my left shoulder here, this is where I need to focus my attention. And it's also some great phraseology of attention control. So leaders today need to understand actually where they focus. So one of the other things I often do, I'm not trying to be provocative all of the time, but one of the sentences I go, right then, so there's no such thing as multitasking. And then a room will respond. You know, people will immediately stick their hands up and go, willingly, I can do this. And go, yeah. I understand that you can do this, and do this at the same time. Yeah. However, we kid ourselves as human beings that we're doing all of these multiple activities equally well, and we can't. So it's about, where do you focus your attention? So a lot of the time with people that I support and leaders, or on the development programs that I run, it's like, with everything that's going on in front of you, where are you choosing to focus your attention? What's impacting your decision making about where you focus your attention? So yeah, that's some people will hate it. Some people are sick and tired of it. I've had HR directors that goes, the next person that talks about VUCA, I'm going to kick them out of my office, you know? And there are loads of people that have never heard of it, and I haven't looked into it, lots of detail. The updated version is something called BANI, BANI. So, you know,
I haven't heard that one.
Yeah. So, but I just think, actually, do you know what? We haven't really faced into and understood VUCA enough yet before we move on to something else.
No.
So there you go.
And I do think these things can be useful shorthand, just to get to the point quickly, you know, without having to explain, well, you know, I'm talking about all the uncertainty and all the turbulence and the amount of change. And, you know, it takes, I don't know, 20 seconds, 30 seconds to kind of say all that and preface and give context, versus just saying VUCA and people kind of know and understand what you mean. It was funny listening to you talk about the kind of battlefield analogies there. The thing going through my head was, I don't know if that makes me feel better or worse. Like that we're you know, equating all the craziness that's going on in, I was going to say, our working lives, but let's be honest, it's not just our working lives. It kind of feels like it's life in general with what it's like to be on the battlefield. But, you know, hey ho.
Well, and so for me, and so for me, this is when I sort of say, it's finding the routine for somebody, because my intention is never to add to anybody's overwhelm, and my intention is not to add to anybody's to-do list. So when individuals or people come to me, they're already full up, essentially. And then it's like, I've got all of this collateral, content, ideas, tips, tools, techniques, resiliency, the VUCA stuff. And I'm not sharing that with the intent to put that on top of everything else that's going on. And like, so alongside all of this craziness you're doing, you've got to do all these things as well. It's like, no, this is about replacement. You know, as a bare minimum, if you're feeling full, I just want to, as a bare minimum, keep that full the same. But actually what I'm wanting to do is for that fullness to reduce.
Just bring the level down.
The level down. And you utilise all of this stuff, collateral, experience, you know, information that I've got to actually be able to do that. So that's why it's working on the resiliency piece first, because the resilient human can face into this, you know, battlefield with a very, very different approach and a different mindset and different feelings about it.
How do you define resilience, Russell? Because it's become one of those words. It's a bit like authentic. You know, it's become one of those words that's become very much part of the lexicon that we all use. And I think to a certain extent, most people probably understand, like, give or take the same thing by resilience. But there can be that sense of resilience, to your point about the level, just means doing more, sucking it up, getting on with it. And I know that that's not what you mean by it. So tell me,
No.
tell me how you come to think of it, and how you view resilience, define resilience.
Yeah, so I define it as springing forward with learning so that you give yourself the best chance that most of the time you are in what for you is thriving. And the definition of that is when somebody asks you, how are you? You are able to say, do you know what? There's a lot going on and I'm good.
Yeah.
That's the measure, so that's the after having worked with me. It's like, yes, there's still a huge amount going on and I'm good. So springing
Okay.
forward. And so, yeah, it is. So there are times when you absolutely will need to be utilizing your levels of resilience to face into challenges and get through something. And the challenge is to understand that that is only a temporary part of being resilient. So how people role model springing forward with learning is that from all of life's events, whether they're not so good ones or the good ones, they pause. And a pause can mean hundreds of different things, having a good conversation with a friend, going for a walk, staring at the wall and dribbling, that's a pause essentially. And listening to a podcast or a great conversation with your team, that's a pause. And they ask themselves 3 questions. What behaviours have I been doing recently that have been serving me well against resilience skills? So there's the resilience wheel, which I know we'll talk about. And that's first question. Second question is, what behaviours have I been doing against the resilience wheel that have not been serving me well? And how do I do more of the answers to the first question? Getting into the habit of doing that means that you'll be role modeling, reflective practice, springing forward with learning, and then you will spend less time in the surviving and coping space and more time in the thriving space. That's how I support people around this.
The pause bit, and during the pause bit, the reflection that comes through those questions, it's so interesting, isn't it? Because, again, I've got this picture in my head of someone who's got the water's rising and it's kind of getting further and further up to their forehead. There's this, idea of kind of being on the hamster wheel, and I'm going and I'm going and I'm going. And that doesn't necessarily lend itself to pausing, because if I pause on that hamster wheel, I might get thrown off, or, something happens. For people that feel that sense of, oh, I couldn't possibly, take that pause or reflect. How do you kind of coach someone through that? Like, how do you get them to just momentarily take their foot off the gas to be able to reflect in that way?
So when we've got to the stage where actually they're a client of mine, the fact that we're having a conversation, it means that we're most of the way there.
Yeah.
Essentially.
Yeah, good point.
The greatest challenge is for everybody that's listening and watching now and everywhere I go, where they might hear what I'm talking about and they're in their subconscious or their conscious, they're going, yeah, it's all well and good, Russell, but it's just, I'm too full and I can't get off. So what I am aiming to do all of the time is be the role model so a human being changes their behavior, i.e. steps off the hamster wheel, whatever that looks like, when they see the value and benefits to them. So a human being changes their behavior when they go, I can see that making the choice to do something different is going to be better, somehow. And so that is what I'm doing in my conversations. So it's like, it's all of those coaching questions around, so what's going on for you? How would you like to be different? What feels like the easiest first step for you, around this? And it could be something really, really perceived as small, but it's like, it's the first step, you've done you've done something different. So it really is, trying to find a way to get them inside their own heads to paint the rainbow of their future selves in a different, better place. because when they sort of go, do you know what, that's compelling enough for me to now sort of engage. So if they're in that really full up overwhelmed place, it's trying to find a chock in the arm or a chink of light in there, that they suddenly realize, actually, do you know what, there is a better way. And that goes all the way back to Hong Kong and local Hong Kong Chinese and light bulb moments and faces going from, oh, there's a better way of doing it, and I'm going, yeah, that's what I do for a living.
That thing.
There,
Yeah.
you've suddenly gone realization moment of it. It can be different, and I can actually find ways to navigate all of these things that are in front of me.
You've mentioned it a couple of times, and just hearing and seeing you talk about it, it's obviously still very real for you. Like, you can obviously still see those faces in your mind and feel that feeling that you felt then, and obviously now continue to feel with the people that you work with. And I'm going off track slightly, but just really, what an amazing thing to be able to identify, because that is such a specific thing. And you actually identified it pretty early on in a slightly different context. And as you say, it took you a little bit of time to get the words around, oh, that might look like training and development, learning and development, coaching, etc. But what a profound thing to be able to kind of reflect back on and go, it was that. Like, that's what I want to spend my time doing. It's really interesting. I love that.
No, I really appreciate that as well, because I do talk about it a lot. And it is incredibly meaningful to me. And it's probably a part of the way my mind works. And, I can quite often be inside my own head and navel gazing and need to have a word with myself to come out of it, Russell, and get into the real world. And it, in terms of role modeling, not my ego, but one of the dimensions of being resilient is having a purpose. So until August 2025, my purpose was to positively affect 100,000 people, which is 100,000 light bulb moments, essentially. And it took me about 7 years to do it. But in August 2025, hit the 100,000. So the new purpose, thank you. The new purpose now is to champion businesses to be a force for good. And what that means in more detail is engaging with anybody that's got a leadership and line management role, from chairperson to CEO and everybody in between, to get them into the place so that when they are asked, how are you, they can go, there's a lot going on and I'm good.
Yeah, but I'm good.
And as a result of that, they support their teams. And another reason for doing it is, Gallup research has been out there for a long time, that 70% of an ability for a team to be engaged and also role modeling resilience and also performing is down to their line manager.
Yeah.
So I'm like, well, there's an opportunity. Let's enable you to be a resilient leader, and you can, be something good in that 70% space, and then the whole team is resilient and more engaged, and it all goes to the numbers in the business.
Yeah.
Essentially.
It's one of those things, isn't it, that I think, and please correct me if I'm wrong, because you're obviously closer to it from a business perspective and the data than I am, but I think a good proportion of people, like, logically, intellectually, know that. They know that if the people in the business are engaged and that they've got the skills and that they've got the tools, then they are going to do better work, and that is going to flow on to the bottom line. I realise I'm saying this in a very, at a very high level.
No. Yes,
but
correct.
So often there is a disconnect between that ideal and then what happens. And sometimes it might be as simple as money, and business doesn't have the money to invest in that. But again, there's a cycle question there, that if you're not investing, then round and round we go. And kind of hearing you say business is a power for good, I really like that framing, because again, I think somewhere along the way we've perhaps lost the idea that not only is that possible, but
Yeah.
that is something that we can absolutely do and should be doing.
Yeah. And it's not about sort of like this, really sort of ethereal world. So one of the reasons that I come at it is absolutely about, I'm good at going, look, so the suite of behaviors that are happening in your organization and your team right now, they are giving you the results that you're getting.
Yeah.
And so quite often, with kindness, I walk into leadership teams and go, you talk all of the time about the data, the numbers, KPIs, things you're worried about, that things aren't working. It's like, so with kindness from me, you need to understand that every result you're getting down right now is down to the behaviors in this room.
Yeah. I'd imagine you get a lot of shocked faces.
And some
Sharp
people
intake
go,
of breath.
yeah, some people go, yeah, we know that, which is great. Some people go, yeah, we know, and that's why you're here, and we don't quite know what to do about it. That's why you're here. And go, great. Others are going, well, really, but it's not about putting all the blame on those shoulders or adding to their overwhelm. And so, yes, I live in the real world, in the fact that the significant driver of all businesses is about, to the shareholders. We do everything to make sure that we can pay out the dividends. And the resilient humans, resilient organizations means that you give yourself a much greater guarantee that the shareholders are going to get their money. So it all equates. So I've always struggled with, so it's from decades ago, people sort of saying, yeah, we do this learning and development stuff, but we've got no idea if we get any money back from it. So I have a number of different leadership development programs that I've done. And I did one recently in a bakery over here, did a program, couple of cohorts, and 1100% return on investment.
That's awesome. Yeah.
And it's like,
That's what you
and it
want.
wasn't me just saying it. The proof came at the end with how we're
literally in the pudding, Russell.
It was.
In the bakery.
It was literally, there is it. That is it. Yes, indeed. Yeah. So I had all of the sort of senior people in the room, and people were presenting about these projects that they were doing that they wouldn't have done if they hadn't been on the program. And the room, these senior leaders in the room, the operations directors were going, well, that idea is 20 quid, £20,000 in that bakery. So if we just replicated it across the next 10, we've got 200 grand. And I would just go, and are you happy with that? You believe that? Go, yeah, let's do it tomorrow then.
I think, again, it's that disconnect point, isn't it? That, I know it's not exactly what you're talking about, but it's a very similar point, I think, around culture. And, we talk about it in this very grandiose, as you said, ethereal way. And, culture's this, and it's something on a wall. And culture is the behaviour of the people that work in the organisation. You can say whatever you want about it, but what the people are doing in the organisation on the day-to-day basis is the proof of the pudding. That is the outcome that you will get. And there does often seem to be this kind of disconnect between what people say it is and then what it is. And maybe that's, because it's not always easy. It's not always easy to look at ourselves in that way and go, I am not my best self in this situation. I'm doing X, Y, and Z, and it is not helping me or my team get to the goals. In fact, I'm making it worse. And, there's a knock-on effect and that's not an easy thing to do. But I think, this idea that somehow behavior is divorced from outcome, I don't really know how that became part of what we think is going to happen.
Well, so self-awareness, personal development, it can be tough. It can be scary. It can be frightening. So then it's about back to this, painting the rainbow, or, imagine the difference.
Imagine the
essentially.
Future self,
future self, that how you're thinking and feeling. It's like, if you wanted to be different, better, then people will go, okay, I'm prepared to do some work now. So this is why I really I'm hoping, or my intention is to find ways that, so everybody I support, I encourage them to engage with their resilience wheel, nurture it, grow it, develop it to build their resilience for the rest of their lives. It's a tool built on loads of research that you can utilize. And I go, and it's like my intention is that each time you are reflecting or know that you're going to reflect around resilience wheel and it's going to become part of your life, to do so, that for you is interesting and enjoyable. It's like, yes, there may be some times when you go, this is hard work. Most of the time you're like, yeah, okay, I'm actually, this is, energizing or engaging or interesting. That's the intention.
You mentioned the wheel and you mentioned purpose, and I think you said there are 7 behaviours on that wheel. What are the other 6?
Yeah, so this is built on research from Robertson Cooper, who did loads of research about what it means to be resilient and put it into the world for free. So mentioning them, and I've taken it and added a couple of bits to it. So heart of our resilience is attitude, so our settled way and thinking, feeling about life, and our value systems essentially, and how we've got to this moment in time for our experiences around nature and nurture. That's at the heart of resilience. And I would revise, don't start there because it's too deep. Essentially, don't immediately go, right, I'm going to go cause of me as my humanity.
Right into the quagmire.
No, don't start there. Start around the edges of the spokes of the wheel. So purpose, so literally your reason for being. Confidence, so what is it that enables you to believe at any particular moment in time whether you can or can't do something. The lovely word of adaptability, which is openness to change, but not necessarily doing it. So the eagle-eared of you, if that's a phraseology, is in the VUCA Prime, I talked about agility. So it's understanding that there is a difference between adaptability and agility. Adaptability is open to change, but not necessarily doing anything.
Yeah.
Agility is the doing space, or how quickly you get into the doing of the change of behaviour. So openness to change. And some other research from Dr. Jenny Campbell in Edinburgh, I don't know her, but it's hers, is that those people that spend a third of their time engaging with their adaptability, they give themselves a good chance of getting into Thrive. Then there is our support network. So nurturing the best, most useful support network for you, not just having people on it that blow smoke up your backside. Okay. Yes. It's just like a mixture of people support network. Then there's meaning, which is our internal storytelling. It's the meaning that we attach to life's events, essentially. So it's about how we are telling our life stories, about what our experiences, what happened, and noticing how useful that they are to tell us the stories we're telling ourselves. And finally, where there's a real big of this one is this word energy, and all of that is with a psychometric called strength scope, essentially. So there are 24 strengths. You take a psychometric and you identify your significant 7 out of these 24, and it's about what naturally energizes you and harnessing your strengths and understanding those things that you have less energy for and what you do when you need to do those things, essentially. So when you play to your strengths, it builds natural resilience and natural confidence. So there's on the website, I've just put on some simple versions of a diagnostic for resilient leadership, resilient teams and resilient organizations. And behind the scenes of that, it's the resilience wheel are the questions. There's 7 questions to answer. And you just get a simple, playback page to go, yeah, you're surviving, coping or thriving, as an initial blueprint. And then I've got more detailed ones when I work with clients.
Right. I'll pop that in the notes. So whether you're watching, listening, the link to that will be in the notes on whatever device you're on. Really interesting, and so many kind of different aspects of that. When you mention energy at the end, how do you think about energy in that context, from the sense of it's giving me energy or it's draining me? Is that the framing, or?
Yeah, it is. So think about, so an extra little bit thinking. So 2 of the 24 are compassion and empathy. Okay. And it's, it's a question I ask a lot about what's the difference between the two, and the room gives an answer, and I go, right then. So everybody that's listening now, think about yourselves. If somebody, one of their significant 7 is compassion, that means that when they see another human being, they have natural energy inside themselves when they see another human being to go, do you know what? I care about your well-being. That's inside me, that energy. I care about your well-being. And it drives the behaviours of, do you know what? I want to look after you. I want to do things for you. I want to make sure that you're well. Compassion, And another one is empathy. And so when people have the energizer of empathy, that means when they see another human being, they've got energy inside themselves to go, do you know what? I'm really curious about what makes you tick. And I just want to ask you questions about, so what's going on for you? How come you think and feel about that? When you were doing that, how come you came to that decision? So they want to try and see it from their perspective, essentially. So I talk about that a lot because I do a lot of coaching skills programs. So that influences your coaching style, essentially. So that, it sort of goes into about actually, where do you naturally try and tell and advise, which isn't coaching, or do you actually try and ask questions? So the compassion, if you've got that energizer, that you have to work hard at reducing that. So some people listening now will go, do you know what? I think I'm energized by both, Russell. Someone will go, neither, which is fine, because there's another 22. Yeah. And others will go, oh, it was that one and it wasn't that one, essentially. So and so some people, one of them is decision making. Another one is common sense. Another one is enthusiasm. So, and when you play to your strengths, natural resilience and natural confidence.
That playing to your strengths, we went through a period of time, I don't think we're necessarily still there, but we definitely were in it, where it became all about trying to overcome your weaknesses and oh, I'm not very good at, and I must, I've got to be this perfectly well-rounded, I must fill in this gap, I must overcome my weakness, which to a certain extent, but if that's all you're doing, that's a pretty miserable way to live your working life. And also, you're probably not bringing to bear all of the incredible skills that you have that might be able to move the organisation forward. And it does feel like we've kind of come the other side of that to, okay, what am I actually really good at? And am I leaning into those things? And am I bringing those things to the fore?
You wouldn't believe the number of clients that I've had. So they'll get their strength scope and they'll look at their report, which ironically is another wheel by sheer coincidence, and their eyes will go to their low scores. And I go, so I suppose my homework, Russell, is to work on these. And I go, no, why would I ask you to do that? Because you don't enjoy it. Your homework is to see these things here that you love doing, is those. And they go, so my homework is to do more of the things that I love doing. And I go, yes. I go, my mind is blown. And then there is a layer of sophistication to think about their job role. So it's about how are the natural factors that your job is asking you to do, where is it complementing or not your strengths, report, essentially. And then it's about a number of strategies that you put in place when you have to do those things that you've got less energy for. So I do, have to work hard at keeping to steer away from this, like, weaknesses. It goes like, let's just revisit this word energy. And it takes a long time. It's a good
way of framing it. Yeah. I know I said weakness, that was on me, but it's a much better way of... No, but it's a much better way of framing it to think about the tasks that give you energy versus the ones that kind of take it from you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's not the fact that you can't do it, it's just to go, actually...
Takes the extra energy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And I think, it goes to that framing, as you said, about your job role, and no role's 100%. Like, there's always going to be things that you have to do that either you don't like or that drain energy from it. I mean, that, unfortunately, that's just life. But hopefully you get to 80-20, and if you're in a role that's 50-50, or if it's the other way around, if it's 20-80, then, maybe you want to think about that, and you want to think differently about the type of role that you're doing, or the type of tasks that are forming the major part of that.
No, that's exactly been the case. There was a large-scale program I did with some associate work where, it was about 1,500 people and all had strength scopes. And there were a few times when somebody, it was facilitated, but sort of said, everything in my job role is in my de-energizers. And then, so I just sort of said, okay, so what do you want to do about that? And they literally went, I need to leave, don't I?
Yeah. You're just swimming against the tide constantly, aren't you? You're constantly swimming against the tide. That person must be exhausted.
Yeah. And then, when they said it, there was a bit of a smile on their face to go back to light bulbs, being zapped.
Yeah.
They literally went, I don't need to do this, do I? And you went, no, you don't.
Yeah. No. And there's probably an element of like, it actually finally makes sense. I talk to my friends and colleagues and they all seem quite happy and they like the leader and they like the environment. And I can't kind of understand why I don't, why I get to the end of the workday and I feel like someone's, sucked the life out of me with a vacuum cleaner. And that moment of like, as you like, aha, oh, like it's not actually, I was going to say it's not me. I mean, it is in the sense that it's the things that take energy from you, but it's not something that you're kind of actively doing. It's just the way you're built. Like, it's just kind of how it is. We've covered a lot, Russell. And as I said, I will pop in the show notes, the link to the website so people can find those tools. I'm assuming that doing some of those profiles is probably the best place for people to start if they're interested in what you've said. Yeah.
Absolutely. And it's not like, I'll know that you've done the report, but it's not an email capture bombardment thing. It's not that. It's just literally, I'm aware that you've done it and it'll just go, hello, you've done it. That was your score.
Yeah, great.
Nice. It's like, that's it, essentially. Yes. And they can book a call if they want to, essentially.
Great. Little question. It's always the final question here. And that is, what do you know now that you wish you knew then?
So I was really thinking about this. I knew the question was coming. I was thinking about, neuromyths, Emma. I wish I knew about neuromyths earlier in my career.
Tell me about those.
So it's a bit of, so if you look at those that are watching, so over my right shoulder.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes, there's there's that phrenology thing, which is the fact that, and so I've done this. I've been in this space, and this is why I wish I knew now. So then what I know now, so the learning development world can be good at putting some stuff out into the universe, which isn't necessarily true. And so I fall into this trap. So the fact that learning styles, the visual, auditory and kinesthetic are put out there about as the black and white of this is how people learn, no evidence to support it. So, people, there are different ways in which people learn. The 70-20-10 approach, essentially. So learning styles is a neuromyth. And so another one that's been taken into the world and I think is being used not as it was originally intended is imposter syndrome. So a syndrome is a genetic
100%,
thing.
Yeah.
Phew. Okay, all right.
Yeah,
so I'm still a bit
with you
nervous.
On that one.
So I'm nervous at times still because
it is not a syndrome as a starting point.
Yeah.
There is nothing wrong with you.
Thank you. Yes. So for me, this is simply a conversation in the confidence space. And one of the dimensions of resilience is the confidence piece. Yep. And one of the 24 strengths is self-confidence. Yeah. So some people are naturally energized by, this is me and these are my skills and I can do stuff. And they're energized by it. So when they're asked to do things, they've got natural energy. So some people, that's quite low energy for them. However, in this space, I am never at any chance labeling anybody anywhere that you don't have confidence. Yeah. I don't believe in that principle. It's like, just let's explore. You absolutely have got belief at times that you can do something. So it's just what is enabling. So so neuromyths. So left brain, right brain.
That's a good one.
That, I wish, I can't get it right in my head. I wish I knew back then. Some things I know now.
But you knew that now,
yeah. And I may still be doing it somewhere. So I do work hard at sort of going, right, I'm saying things. Have I fallen into the trap of like neuromyths and things like that? happy to be challenged on things. So yeah,
I
there's a
didn't
lot of
know
work to
that.
do in that space.
Yeah, I haven't
Yeah.
come across that word. I hands up, I'm guilty of the left brain, right brain thing. I say that.
Yeah.
Say it all the
Yeah.
time. And to my earlier point about VUCA being a shorthand, it's perhaps just a, and I'm not putting VUCA in the same bracket as that, but it's perhaps just a lazy way of saying there are two quite different approaches to how I think, and actually
Yes.
blending those two things together is something that when I talk about my own career journey, I often talk about I found it quite difficult to put together those two things because I was
Yes.
very good at one and more interested in the other. And I couldn't
Yes.
quite work out how to kind of blend those things and put them
Yeah.
together. But I do use the terminology hands up guilty of left brain, right brain. So I'm going to stop doing that now. That is my
Well,
pledge
so
to you, Russell. I'm going to use different language around that. I do not want to be talking about neuromyths.
and so it's really interesting. Anybody at any time can put into a search engine, current or top 20 or top 10 Neuromyths or top 20, and
Yeah,
you'll get a list.
I'm going to do that.
And,
Yeah,
you know, and just have a little look at it and go, oh, okay, all right, I get what.
yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. And the imposter syndrome is such a big one. Like, again, like talk about something that's just become part of the lexicon and people I'm sure are using as a way to stop themselves from taking opportunity quite often
Yeah.
and feeling a little bit justified about doing that. And the other thing framing that I heard on that a little while ago, and I'm interested in your thoughts on this, that as you said, it's not a syndrome, but even that little feeling of it is actually just it's just registering that you're probably about to do something that you haven't done before.
Yeah,
That's it. And if you
not
haven't
immediate.
done something before, you kind of go, oh, okay. And as you said, I'm not, maybe it's not immediately obvious whether you're going to be able to do that thing or not. That in
Yeah,
itself is not necessarily a bad thing. It's certainly not a syndrome.
no. And then the additional bit, as you know, is okay, I've not necessarily done this before, but what is my belief right now about whether I can or I can't?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, that's it.
Yeah, so interesting, so interesting. I could talk to you about this all day, and particularly on the on the neuro myth things, but I
Yeah,
won't
well,
because I'm so conscious of time. But yeah, I'm definitely going to go away and Google those. I'm sure there's some other ones that just creep in, and I'm probably using as well without realizing.
I must credit, I'm not sure if you're listening to this, but I've got a colleague who's in a similar space to me. His specialism is around mental toughness. So there's obviously crossover in what we do. But he's the one that's always poking me about neuromyths, and which I really appreciate. It's him actually that I need that, it's to my attention, which I appreciate.
Yes, indeed,
He's one that when I
indeed.
meet him for coffees, he's always the one that's just asking those challenging questions. And I would come away and go, right, I just need to go and rethink. I'll just go and double
Yes.
check something. Yes. So Steve Brookshaw, thank you.
Thank you very much, Russell. I really appreciate you taking the time, and I know it's an early morning for you, so thank you for that. Thank you for sharing your experience and insights and what you've learned. I've really enjoyed it. Much appreciated.
You're very welcome. Thank you.